Vlogaday 241. It's a good number.
I'm going to read to you from Agnar's box. I had another plan for the evening, didn't come through, I'm a little bit tired, it's okay. Instead, I thought I'd surprise those of you who are interested in Agnar's box with the first chapter of Agnar's box. As it currently is, we still have to go through edits. I've never read this out loud before. And apparently, even the phone's not interested. Okay, I think I made this thing a little bit more stable. We will see. Okay, so I've never actually read this thing out loud before, so please forgive me for any mistakes made. Also, it's not edited yet. I just thought that for those of you who are excited about Agnar's box or just curious what the heck is going on, it might be fun to give you a preview of the first chapter, see if you find it interesting or not. So, it's going to take up the whole video, so if you're not into this, then come back tomorrow. The vlog will be right back to normal. But for those of you who are ready, let's begin. I'll put the visual at the top on the bottom here. Narrative Observational Recording Module, Prototype 13. Initializing. Firmware, update complete. S-Edit OS, no updates available. All systems active. Date, not entered. Subject, S. Agnar. Location, Ellender, Varia. Stupid for a narrative device. Thought how I wiped was worth a detailed account. Agnar's agitation even bled into his sentence fragments. Tom, his assistant, removed the electric plug from the vest, hugging Agnar just a little too tightly, already a frequent complaint in spite of having only worn it for the last 24 hours. It's done resetting. Dr. Hun nodded as he checked the screen in his palm. The firmware upgrade will have wiped whatever Norm recorded and hopefully help it have a better sense of what's relevant to your story. They stood in one of Agnar's private offices to keep the noise down while they calibrated the vest. He had one tucked away on nearly every floor of the 144-story building, but few were as frequented as Sublevel 7. Agnar liked to spend as much time as possible surrounded by his research teams. My story, Agnar said with enough sarcasm that the desk could pick up on it. He started walking for the door before the other two were finished with their readings. You mean my life. Turning it into a story doesn't exactly make it one worth telling. Your profile is still intact, Dr. Hun read from the device in his palm without noting his employer's tone. He looked up in time to realize they were on the move and scampered to keep up. Everything looks good, from what's in public record to the full psychological profile we ran on you 2 months ago. They burst into a broad, brightly lit space with 2 full stories soaring above their heads. Dozens of men and women in trim white jackets bustled around numerous workstations and sealed glass rooms. Agnar strode between them, casually noting the progress of each team as he wove his way across the floor, completely unabashed in his shirtless state. This thing is going to make a real mark, sir. Tom adjusted a few settings on the screen in his own hand and smiled. Awe crept into his eyes as he looked through them and into the future. Every person's life, recorded in immaculate detail, edited down on the fly, and archived in our network. People will kill to have every day of their lives immortalized. And just think of the sales when we make it printed versions available on demand. While I certainly hope this thing pays for itself, I didn't take you for such a cynic. Agnar grabbed his shirt off the back of the tall chair where he'd left it and pulled it over the vest. The Narrative Observational Recording Module, NORM, was thin, only a few centimeters thick, which had been one of Agnar's requirements in funding the design. It couldn't be obvious, nor could it force anyone to buy a new wardrobe in order to use it. Sleek and black, it was made to look like a sleeveless undershirt to the unwary observer. Agnar couldn't help glance around the room to see if anyone was watching as he buttoned up. He still thought it was too obvious, impressive as the design was. I don't mean that everyone's a narcissist, sir. Narrative is foundational to the human psyche. Everyone's at the center of their own lifelong adventure. We're just going to help them capture it. At least, we'll be the first to capture it in a way worth reading. An intern with spiky black hair and thick glasses slid up beside them, cleared his throat, and handed Agnar a tablet. Agnar flipped through a few charts before initialing and handing the device back. If this wasn't your pet project, Tom, I would never have let you strap this thing on me. He grabbed his jacket and started walking again. They were asked to stop as a researcher in oversized goggles raised a long plasma rifle to her shoulder and aimed it at a purple melon at the far end of a long corridor. She fired, a flash of blue streaking from the end of her weapon with a sizzle and a pop. The blast struck the melon and dissipated without so much as singeing the rind. Agnar nodded appreciatively before carrying on. Hate to break it to you, sir, but your security detail is going to make you wear one either way. Agnar rose his left eyebrow and cocked his head to the side as he hit the button for the elevator. They aren't that brave. You're forgetting the full implementation of the design, aren't you? Dr. Hun looked at him blankly for a moment before sighing. Of course you are. You know I have better things to attend to than storytelling undershirts. Agnar gestured towards two scientists who had lit themselves on fire 3 transparent chambers over. Across from those two, a goggled researcher stood at the center of what looked to be a very hungry, very agitated pack of wolves. Whatever kept the animals at bay was invisible from where Agnar stood. Though to be honest, I can't even tell who's actually in danger down here anymore. Well, that is all Norm will be when he gets to market, Dr. Hunt said. He glanced at the scientists extinguishing themselves with a small handheld device and squirmed. A storytelling undershirt, that is. Don't call it a hymn, Doc. That's weird. It's bad enough that the acronym makes a name. Mr. Agnar? A thick-set woman with bouncing dark curls stepped into their line of sight. The door to the elevator slid open and Agnar forced himself to ignore it. We just got a denial of funds from finance for supplies? Supplies for what? Agnar took the sheet. He didn't hear her say the project name or the advanced stage in the research that they were at. His blood pressure washed out all auditory reception for a moment. Go ahead and order what you need, Agnar said as he handed the request form back to her. The elevator made an impatient noise behind him. I'll speak with finance. He gave Tom a meaningful look. Tom nodded and made a note on the screen in his palm. Thank you, sir. She gave Agnar a slight nod of a bow and turned to rejoin her team. The elevator chimed even louder and they stepped inside before the doors slid shut again. Agnar placed his palm over a sphere jutting out of the wall, causing small lights in the shape of a face to appear just above it. Floor 143, he said. Penthouse office suites. Access granted. Dr. Hunn's line of thinking about Norm had not been budged. It will still have all of the sensors for vitals, active nervous system monitoring, and both its audio and visual inputs. Interpretation software will be included as well, obviously. That's the distinguishing feature. It will be slightly thinner as well. Why is mine thicker? Agnar suppressed an irritable sigh. The elevator accelerated rapidly. Is it bulletproof? Legal won't let us call anything bulletproof, Dr. Hunn shrugged, then winced as his ears popped. But yes, more importantly, it has a series of experimental defenses installed. One's derived from Tunisia that should keep you safe if Norm detects your distress and interprets the situation as dangerous. A subtle smirk indicated that it pleased Agnar to know they were still drawing value out of one of their earliest discoveries. It had nearly cost them the entire company to keep Tunisia. I don't do dangerous, Hund. I've seen your spreadsheets, Tom said with a smirk. The elevator decelerated quickly, but just smoothly enough to remain comfortable. But security wants you and Mr. Hold fitted for these things. The form factor is perfect for the extras they designed, so you have the double benefit of additional safety and being the first to try out the narrative creation functionality. The elevator doors slid open silently. They stepped out into a richly decorated hallway, stone archways vaulting 3 stories overhead. Agnar walked forward, oblivious to the mahogany finish and 15-foot portraits that lined their path. Color me excited. His voice remained flat, but his heart rate elevated as his thoughts wandered. He resumed focus with a start. It can't read my thoughts, can it? Dr. Hund laughed. We'd make a real profit from the Ministry of International Security if it could. No, it can't read thoughts. We're a long way away from that. However, it can tell when your line of thinking changes, and it reads emotions with enough accuracy that I'm willing to stamp a guarantee on it. Theoretically, with enough time and your full profile at its disposal, Norm should be able to interpret your motivations and draw pertinent information into the narrative. This thing knows more about you than you do. That's not creepy in the slightest. Agnar pushed his way into his office, the door's locks unlatching just in time to permit him entrance. You might find it helpful upon reading its output. There will be links it draws from your past that you might have missed in the moment. Hund spared Tom a nervous glance behind Agnar's back. Something buzzed and Tom stepped to the side with a hand cupped over his ear. The door slid shut over a plush black carpet and clicked into place. I was impressed enough with how it turned out yesterday, Agnar said as he walked across the room and tossed his jacket onto his desk, until it followed me to the washroom and couldn't take a hint. It was a known issue in the last few rounds of firmware, but today's flash should have fixed that. It should move from real-time recounting to a compressed version of storytelling with greater consistency. You'll just have to give it a few minutes at the end of each day to trim and compile things as it sees fit. It talked to me, too. The statement sounded more like a question. Dr. Hund responded hesitantly. It can reconfigure the frequency generators into audible speakers, yes, but it shouldn't do that very often. It asked me what soup tasted like. Dr. Hund stared blankly at Agnar for a moment, blinking a few times before shaking his head. It should know what soup tastes like. It said it had never seen red soup before and asked me to describe it. I ignored it. It was true. He had ignored it. And can I edit it? Agnar asked. More importantly, how do I keep it from reading my spreadsheets or recording classified documents? Dr. Hund held up a finger, then reached into his briefcase and pulled out what looked like a small silver pen. Just flip this switch and hold it over your right shoulder. It'll jam the inputs until you turn it off. I'm supposed to work with one hand? Agnar asked, incredulous. For now, sir. Sorry. We haven't found an unobtrusive way to mount it yet. Can't I just turn it off? You'd never turn it on again, Tom said as he walked over to join them. His face was a shade lighter in spite of the smile plastered to it. We've had issues accidentally triggering the emergency protocols when shutting it down. Dr. Hun shrugged nonchalantly. He put his palm-sided screen into a slot in his white coat. You'll forget you're even wearing it soon, sir. If Brant hadn't left in such a hurry yesterday, he could have been the one to try this stupid thing on first. Agnar's office was an immaculate space, taking up nearly half of the Nor Tower's 143rd floor. Behind his desk stood a panoramic view of the northern range, the Elandris River sparkling below in the foreground as it carried barges to and from the coast. A broad conference table stood off to the left of the door through which they'd entered, its polished wood the only organic surface in the room. Agnar liked clean lines and cleaner spaces between them. Unfortunately, as you've seen, calibration takes a day or two, Dr. Hun said as he walked out. Don't worry, Mr. Hold will go through the same experience soon enough, and then the two of you can commiserate. Dr. Hun stepped through the broad double doors at the far end of the office and vanished as Agnar scratched his ribs through the vest. His nose crinkled at the unsatisfactory sensation, and his thoughts wandered to his friend. He'd better be able to contain that thing. I think things are already out of hand, sir. Tom swallowed hard, his posture notably straighter than it had been moments before. Brant called you already? Agnar's heart rate quickened. Did they lose it before he could get there? Oh, not with Mr. Hold, sir. Agnar let out a long breath. What else would I care about right now? Ministry of International Security? Agnar's heart rate resumed its elevated pace. Protocol, he called out. The screen on his desk flared to life. Silence the room. A light hum settled into the air as jammers surrounding the office activated. What the hell do they want? They found out about the nectar. Nectar? How? That's still in controlled stages in Hun's lab. Some border agent in Petonia tripped off international intervention. They handed it over to MIS after tracking it here. Brant probably skimped on the bribe, Agnar said as he started pacing. Which is why I try to keep him from crossing borders on foot. Spends liberally in every arena except the ones that count. You know that relic was at the heart of 3 catastrophic fires? At least. Not to mention the disaster the first time Brant tried to get it from them. The Petonians owe us one for taking it off their hands. Maybe the Petonians feel that way, sir, but MIS doesn't seem thrilled that Mr. Hold brought it on Varian soil. On commercial transport, no less. We didn't want to fly commercial with that thing. God damn it, if our cargo pilots weren't a pack of raging alcoholics. Besides, the tower is the safest place for something like that. If you just talk to them, sir, I'm sure you can smooth it out. Agnar's posture straightened involuntarily at the thought. There was no way he would talk to MIS if he could help it. The last time it cost him a significant chunk of the year's revenue in fines, and the threats they'd leveled still haunted his dreams. More fines like that before they'd secured this new discovery, and he could lose control of the company. He had to throw them a bone, and he wasn't about to offer an arm. Have Hun talk to them about it. Sir? Tom inhaled sharply. They could derail his career if he gets implicated in this. I don't care. Agnar waved his assistant towards the far doors through which the unfortunate doctor had just left. Better to lose one researcher than an entire division. Besides, he's the only one without an active project on his plate. That's why I built this company, to protect us from the barbs of the world. Tom nodded himself into action before walking towards the exit. And let me know the instant Brant calls. Whatever they found must have been invaluable for him to skip out on his anniversary. Brant Hold had never missed an anniversary, even if he couldn't be counted on to make any other scheduled appearance. Agnar could only hope it was because Hold had found their salvation. I will, sir. Agnar stood rooted in place until the door shut behind Tom, then let out a long sigh. His hands were shaking. He looked at them before clenching them slowly into fists. I can't let the whole place come tumbling down for one damn border agent. He turned to the screen on his desk. It illuminated, anticipating Agnar's need. Make a note for the head of security to find out whoever that border agent was. Get him to change his story. Protocol, return the room to normal. The hum in the air was quickly replaced by the regular silence of the office, broken only on occasion by the flat water feature running in the corner. Minutes later, it reflected the shifting lights across the walls as it caught the setting sun. Watching the lights slide along the sterile lines of the room soothed Agnar slightly. Hold had built his half of the top floor to look like one of the ruined castles he'd pillaged in the mountains north of Elandir. Agnar preferred to keep his as minimalistic as possible. They'd only inhabited this building for 3 years. He wasn't ready to move out yet. Agnar sat at his desk and ran his hands through his hair for a moment before letting out another long sigh. He reached for the pen-shaped disruptor left by Dr. Hund and turned it in his hand. I guess I better get some work done. Day 0. Narrative compilation complete. Error log 3. Syntax and grammar corrections missed. Ta-da! Well, it's a long one today. The chapters are long to read, apparently. I don't know if you're into audiobooks. I don't know if you're into Agnar's Box, but let me know how I did. I don't think that I'll end up doing the audiobook of this one myself because I think I'd rather have a female voice for this book in particular. But if you guys think I'm not too terrible at it, maybe I will do the audiobooks for my other books. I've thought about doing it for a long time, but just never have. So leave your thoughts in the comments. If you want to know more about Agnar's Box, good luck. There's not a lot out there. You can go to agnarsbox.com and see a little bit. And yeah, otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.